What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Today, I've got a really fun video. We're going to talk about CEO success habits, what the most successful CEOs do, what I've seen, a lot of my friends and a lot of other successful CEOs who have exited, how they've gotten there, and also the challenges that they've overcome. So in this video, we're going to talk about leadership styles. We're going to talk about mindset, how their mindset differs from the typical person. We're also going to talk about how they stay organized. And finally, we're going to talk about what the most important metrics are that CEOs keep an eye on. And some of these things are going to surprise you. And also for you, the CEO, you can kind of, compare how you run things. Of course, you're going to do it differently. I'd love to hear it in the comments, different areas of focus that you have. And we'll compare that to what I've seen. Today, hopefully you enjoyed this background. It's a beautiful day down here at the beach in Huntington. And I know you're not here for that, but hey, gotta love it. The fall's the best time over here, so hopefully you guys enjoy the scenery while I kind of go through this list. Okay, first, let's talk about what I've seen successful CEOs, how they stay organized. There's a lot of focus on things like GTD, getting things done, hyper-organized executives, and definitely this is a plus if you're that way. But really in this video, what I'm focused on are founder CEOs. And founder CEOs are often a little bit different. They've had to start from the beginning. They've had to grind. Maybe they're a little more prone to ADHD. So what I've seen is, I have not seen hyper-organized, getting things done type of methodology. I have not seen that. I think it's great if you're there, but what I've seen is an incredible ability to focus on what's the most important thing at hand. So the best CEOs, I think, that I've seen don't have that super organized attribute, but at the same time, they're hyper-focused on 2 to 3 MITs. So their most important things are 2 to 3 most important things. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. So when you think about it, sometimes there's too much focus on process, too much focus on getting things done, too much crossing off tasks, when really, it's how much time are you allocating to your most important things. So that's number one, what I've seen just in my experience. Okay, next, let's talk about mindset. How are CEOs different as far as their mindset goes? Usually, a CEO should be the visionary and usually is overly optimistic. So that's sort of an impediment, really, right? Sometimes you're going to run into mistakes and problems because you're overly optimistic. And this is what all of you know, that to found a company as a CEO founder, you need to have that mindset. And that's a common attribute. But what I would put in there, which is a really interesting way to think about this, is how do you protect yourself from that? So that's where you got to think about who you hire on your team. Do you have executive level decision makers that are going to protect you? You need to have that creative mindset, that, swing for the home run mindset, but you need to have people on your team that are warning you that this could be a company killer up in front of us. And I unfortunately have seen that, where CEOs are overly optimistic. They're great people, great CEOs, but one mistake can kill the company. So it's a very common attribute. At the same time, you want to protect by having people on your team that are comfortable in correcting you, that you trust. You value their wisdom. They bring experience to the table. And I think that's a great yin-yang and a great way to balance that characteristic, which is so common among CEOs. Okay, the next one we want to talk about is leadership. How are CEOs different? What are the best CEOs? What are their leadership styles? And what I've seen is, obviously good CEOs, they're going to be really good delegators, right? They don't want to be working on the things that don't excite them. And there's so many things going on. Why are they good delegators? Because they're able to delegate the most important things and the things that they don't have a lot of personal energy in doing off their plate. But on the other side, a lot of CEOs are poor at holding others accountable. Maybe that's because of their optimistic nature. There's a number of reasons why that may be the case. Well, honestly, everybody is generally holding others accountable is a very difficult characteristic to have in the first place, right? But generally, that's a weakness. Think about how you hold your team accountable. Could there be improvements? Easiest way to improve that is to hire really good leaders that are going to hold their teams accountable. And then you're limited to maybe just holding those leaders accountable. And then there's ways to work on that with systems and planning and, how you're doing your forecasting and budgeting and holding those accountable. So I would say that's a really sort of not discussed area. We know that most CEOs, especially successful ones, are probably good leaders. That's how they've gotten to that place. But the area that's not discussed is the accountability side. And accountability is so important. And then, just really quickly on the leadership side, just a quick couple of things that I've noticed is the best leaders they have a lot of humility. They're able to connect with their team. And they don't have to do fancy, expensive packages to create that leadership and culture at the company. They can do it just by naturally connecting and showing appreciation. And I think it's a simple way, but a very genuine way to become a good leader. And leadership is something that you can be born with. I really, truly believe some people are born leaders, but it's also something you definitely can learn. Obviously, study John Maxwell. And there's so many other books. We'll probably do another video on that later. Okay, finally, let's get into metrics. What do CEOs want? They want sales, they want profit. Yes, that all of us want that. But what I've seen is typically CEOs more focused on top line sales. I think this is probably well understood, so it shouldn't be a surprise. But let's talk about that. You're more focused on top line sales, not focused enough on expenses, maybe not focused enough on cash flow for sure. More focused on, especially founder-led, more focused on P&L, not focused enough on balance sheet, not focused enough on cash flow statement. More focused on customers and top line sales, not focused enough potentially on cost of doing business with that customer, allowances, bottom line sales. So there's a number of ways that you can now protect yourself on this. Obviously, it's going to be hiring a good team, but I think this is actually the hardest one to protect yourself because generally your sales team is going to be commissioned. Even if it's net sales, there's really going to be a top line sales element to that. And it's hard and it's more sophisticated to kind of commission that down at the bottom as a net sales, and even net profit is even much more difficult. So there's a lot of pitfalls you can run into. So what are the best ways to solve that? First, have a great CFO. Now, this can be difficult for smaller founder-led companies. Maybe they're not big enough for that. But I would say by the time you're 20 to 30 team members, you need to have at least a strong VP of finance, and for sure, eventually a really good CFO that can protect you. The CFO is going to be the individual that's going to challenge your sales team. It's going to push them, hold them accountable, which is what we were talking about earlier. And I think a lot of founder-led companies might be hesitant to make that hire. You want to invest in your sales, you want to invest in your marketing, and investing in finance sometimes is not first or second or even third on your list. But think about, this video is all about protecting you. What are the important characteristics of good CEOs? But also, what are the weaknesses that come with those characteristics? And therefore, next step, how do you protect yourself? And as you can see, it comes down to people in almost every single case. Systems can do a good job, but what I found, especially in my organizations, it's all about people. They're going to magnify your strengths and they're going to protect your weaknesses. Listen, I hope this video was helpful. In the comments, I'd love to hear for you, the CEOs, what are your blind spots? This can be really helpful to others reading the comments and watching the video. So please, that would be awesome to hear those. What are your blind spots? What did you learn in the past? What were the mistakes? How did you solve it? Was it all solved by hiring people? Were there maybe systems and processes that also helped you? Was it really just a maturity thing where the first 5 years you're making these mistakes and you kind of grew in to this position of being a CEO? But anyways, listen, I really appreciate you guys watching. Please like and subscribe. It means a lot. And I'll leave you with a little view of the beach here for the last couple seconds. It's a gorgeous day.